Hi, Meryl. It's very nice to be with you talking and accompanying us in ICF Argentina. Before we start, can you tell a little bit more about you?
Happy to do that. Sure. Thank you, Aida, for inviting me. Hello, everyone. So my name is Meryl Moritz. I'm based in New York. I've been coaching for over 27 years, and I'm an MCC, and I also hold a coach supervision credential from EMCC. And I'm also a coach educator. I've taught in 3 different universities in the United States, and I teach in a private academy in China and one in Russia. So I'm very interested in the new competencies and the new ethics because they are bringing us into the 21st century of coaching, more relevant, more to the point. And we learned so much, and we were able to make these revisions, to make these things really clear and easy to understand, as opposed to before they were somewhat vague and, well, they were, ethics and competencies 1.1, and this is now 2.1. All right, so.
Great, thank you. Well, and I still remember everything you taught me in 2005 at NYU. And actually, my question today is, how would you compare what you were teaching me by those days and today with the new competencies?
Okay, that's a great question. And so back when, I think it was all so new. The competencies had just really been developed within the previous couple of years. And we were, at the time, each instructor was attempting to put their own experience into the competencies because there was a lot of room for interpretation. Always at the root of that, and never explicit, was one of the competencies, and I know that's not the topic for today, which is this mindset that a coach needs to have. And I'm so excited that that's now here because it pervades all the other competencies. And I know, so what about the agreement? So many times I would listen to someone do a recorded session for their credential qualification, and they would spend moments only on what is the topic. They'd ask what the topic is or what are we going to talk about, but never really registering that it's a privilege and an honor for the coach to actually explore what this person wants who's in front of them. And the agreement creates such an incredible relationship. It's not just a touch point. It's the beginning of the relationship where you're using all the other competencies, listening, of course, your presence, your creating the trust and the safety, evoking awareness, and even starting with growth, to facilitate the client's growth. That all is embodied in that agreement conversation, every bit of it. And so now we have the agreement is now cast in a different light, that it is the way coaching occurs, the way partnership emerges, the way the coach has the right place in the relationship, not above, not below, and but co. And as you remember, that.
Yes, but co, as I remember, because as I was telling you, now everybody is talking about the pilot and the co-pilot, and actually what I'm seeing now that is getting a much more systemic, those agreements, with taking more stakeholders into that agreement and looking at them. But today we are going to be discussing with the ICF Argentina, with the members, about agreements and listening. Can you tell me a little bit about listening? How do you understand the active listening in this new framework?
So I think this is, since you just mentioned systemically, I think that's a really important aspect to the way listening is now framed. So when I was first doing my coach training a long time ago, my instructor said, if you can listen, you can coach. But he was really a sensitive person, and I was kind of a bull in the china shop. I don't know how that would translate well into Spanish, but just charging ahead, consulting mindset, not a coaching mindset. And that had to shift. I had to, and this new, that was an old part of it. It was said, listen with an open mind, of course. Listen, and testing me basically for what I was listening for. Now I'm listening, we're being asked to listen to understand the person's being, to understand what matters to them, to understand their context. But now it's framed in the idea of a system, that every person we work with is a part of multiple systems, a community, some religious institution, perhaps a neighborhood, a family unit where they work, the society that they live in, maybe a political affiliation. That's a system. The environment, literally the environment, the climate. This is all part of who that person is and what the influences are that have created that. So we do not want to listen. We've said a shorthand for listening for a long time. Listen for who they are and what they want. Now the emphasis in the listening markers is really listening for who they are, but it spells it out. So is it clear that I'm listening always to clarify, rather than making a hypothesis about who's in front of me, operating from an assumption? No, always clarifying, clarifying, clarifying. Clarifying becomes now the most important aspect of listening. Because you see, and it's confusing to new coaches sometimes, because there's so much questioning embodied in the listening competency, because we're clarifying all the time. We're testing the assumptions. We're dismembering the hypothesis that we're human beings. We start making hypotheses. So we have to pull that apart and find out truly what is meant by that. How are you viewing it? What's that experience that brought you to that? All of it clarifying.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you very much. I asked you for only 5 minutes, so I think that we have taken a little bit over 5 minutes, but I'm so happy to be with you here. Anything else, any other specific tip or recommendation that you would like to leave before we close our conversation?
So the early also in coaching, I was taught to do something very important. And I would encourage everybody, as they look at the new competencies and the new markers, especially for PCC, to keep this in mind. So first, trust the process. Coaching works. Follow a process, see how it feels, and put aside your reservations about the process. The second is trust the client's wisdom. If you're clarifying and you're questioning and you're setting up an agreement based on what the client wants, you cannot go wrong. And the last is trust yourself as a coach. Listen to what's happening inside you, listen to how you're listening, and then you will be there for the person, not just for their goal.
Great. Well, I love this conversation because it's been an evolving conversation throughout the years with you. And before we close, I just would like to share with you that Meryl was my first mentor, teacher, now a friend, colleague. And she's been my role model to become an MCC. So thank you, Meryl, for everything that you have given to me in my life.
Thank you, Aida. It's very mutual.
Love to be close to you.
All the best.
Thank you. Let me stop recording.